Good morning and welcome. My name is Jean Namitz, and I'm the Director of Religious Education here at the Unitarian Society of Ridgewood. As always, a big thank you to the entire team that helps bring services to life each Sunday. For over a century, the Unitarian Society of Ridgewood has been gathering in community as a home for liberal faith and free thinking. Now, as much as ever, we need communities like this that believe in the interdependence of humanity, in the power of love, and in the holy spark in every single person. Here in this community, we celebrate each person, whatever their gender, sexual orientation, age, education, history, race, ethnicity, economic status, physical or mental health, or theology. If this is your first time visiting one of our Sunday services, we are so glad that you found us this morning and welcome. Please consider staying for our virtual coffee hour. It's a great way to connect with small groups of folks. If you'd like to learn more about us, please fill out the Google form that will be dropped into the chat or email our office at 113cottage@gmail.com or visit our website, uuridgewood.org. If you have been joining us a while and are curious about membership and want to take the next step towards it, please contact Ann Peretti at usrmembership1@gmail.com. Just a couple of announcements. Our March collection on the Reeb porch will be a diaper drive. All proceeds will be distributed through the Women's Club of Ridgewood. And thank you for your donations of the grab and go food bags for the month of February. And finally, this Tuesday is the last gathering for how to talk to your children and youth about body, sex, loss, and country. We are glad you are with us this morning.
Now take a deep breath and listen. Listen to this sound as it rings out. Let it act as a force field around us. In this space, at this time, a force field away from the anger that we live through all too often when we think of our nation. Listen to this sound as it rings out in this space, at this time, and let it call us into love. Love for our community, which protects us, love for our family, however we found them, and love for all of those things which make these blessed lives possible. Take a deep breath and listen to this sound that calls you into loving attention. Breathe and listen. This week, people of Jewish faith are celebrating the holiday of Purim. For those of you who are not familiar, Purim tells the story of a plot to kill the Jewish people, hatched by a petty official named Haman in the Persian court. Haman is offended that a man named Mordecai refuses to bow to him and thus decides that Mordecai and all of the Jews in the kingdom must die. Esther, the hero of the tale, is married to the Persian king, but she has not revealed that she is Jewish. Upon learning of Haman's plot, Esther initially refuses to intercede because to approach the king would put her life at risk. Mordecai warns Esther that if she does not intercede, that the Jews will find salvation from another place, but she and her family will be doomed and will perish. Esther prays for 3 days and decides that she will approach her husband, the king, reveal her true identity, and urge him to intercede against Haman's plot to kill the Jews. While Esther has been agonizing, It turns out that the king had learned that Mordecai foiled a plot to assassinate the king. The king plans to honor Mordecai for his loyalty. Ironically, the king asks Haman how such a person should be honored, and Haman, feeling his ears burning and believing that the king must be talking about him, expresses that the king should lavishly bestow kingly clothes and steed upon the person. To Haman's horror, the king takes his advice and bestows these gifts onto Mordecai. Esther finally comes clean and tells the king about her true identity and Haman's plan to kill Mordecai and the Jewish people. In anger, the king orders Haman to be hung from the gallows that Haman had erected to kill Mordecai. The Jewish people are saved, and Esther is held as a hero. The book of Esther then concludes that the Jewish people should celebrate this day. It says they should make them days of feasting and gladness, and of sending portions one to another and gifts to the poor. Esther places herself in harm's way for her love of her country and for justice. Our relationship to our country and even to our local communities is often complicated, and sometimes it asks much of us. Today, we are going to explore how we can cultivate a relationship to our country that stays true to our values, visions for the future, and allows us for days of feasting and of gladness.
Good morning again. This month of February, we explored the challenge of love through the lens of body, sex, loss, and country. And today, as Olas just said, we complete this exploration with an examination of our love of country. Growing up for me, God and country were intertwined concepts of might and majesty. Manifest Destiny, the 19th century American brand that was a major source of white supremacy, was taught and infused in all my learning. This intertwined strands of God and country began to unwind in my teens as my birth religion challenged me to open to the world of suffering. Being exposed to third world disparities and global issues also opened my eyes and enlarged my horizons to think outside of my ethnic, religious, and economic class. It was in that opening that I had the space to challenge my understanding of America. Abraham Lincoln said, "I walk slowly, but I never walk backward." It has been a slow walk, this walk of mine. To understand that our origin as a nation was first and foremost as a slave republic. Slowly coming to understand the personal violations and atrocities committed under Jim Crow laws. And to understand that I came of age during the bloom of the second wave of Jim Crow culture, of punitive drug laws and mass incarceration. As the author and professor Eddie Glaude Jr. says, we are in the midst of a moral reckoning. Revealing the lie at the heart of the American idea, however, creates an opportunity to tell a better and different story. These days, I am struggling to participate in this better and different story against the backdrop of another lie, the big lie of the election results, as has been referred to. It is hard to address the moral reckoning Glaude calls us to in a climate where facts are disputed and conspiracy theories reign. The work of the Spirit of America is being sidelined as we are caught up defending what is reality. In this transitional time of identifying a true American story and protecting what is real, it is an act of patriotism to listen to President Biden's nominated cabinet members share their immigrant stories. The most recent one was Merrick Garland weeping at his confirmation hearing, speaking of his family coming to America. They took us in, they protected us, and I feel a debt to serve this country. Lucille Clifton, an African-American poet and recipient of the National Book Award, captures the movement of change from what she calls this to that in her poem, Blessing of the Boats. May the tide that is entering even now the lip of our understanding carry you out beyond the face of fear. May you kiss the wind, then turn from it, certain that it will love your back. May you open your eyes to water, water waving forever, and may you, in your innocence, sail through this to that. So this coming Tuesday, we invite you to explore your love of country as a family. This is the final discussion in our series, How to Talk to Your Children About Body Image, Sex, Loss, and Country for parents, grandparents, and caretakers, where we share the challenges and wisdom with each other. Please note there's a time difference. Instead of 7:30, we will convene at 7. Reverend Sarah will be facilitating, and we hope that you will join us.
Please join us in the words for lighting our chalice. We light this chalice for the light of truth, the warmth of love, and the energy of action as we gather together in the circle of community.
Our first reading today will be a poem by Chris Ranzik, who was the Denver Poet Laureate for several years. Bread and Anger, a Prayer. Arguments at home happen most often in the kitchen. Maybe the bananas, forgotten and going blotchy brown, give off a subtle fume, causing your spouse to hurl the wooden spoon, turn on her heel and scream obscenities, a tirade so profound, needles twitch across seismic scrolls nearby laboratories, and squirrels in the elms scurry for their nests. Maybe salmon, sealed in plastic, nestled in darkness, spasm again in the flood of light as you open the freezer door, flicking tails as if to leap up roaring frigid falls, remembering how it was to swim under falling snow and moonlight into a net spread out like revenge. Teenagers' milk-washed cereal bowls, discarded in a rush for school, may harbor sugary curses, the residue of 1,000 times no. Old salt may lose its flavor, each crystal imbued with the taste of a wish unvoiced. To sprinkle it on soup releases essence of snow from a failed ski trip or taste of paint chips off shabby walls. That blob of carbon on the oven floor, a cherry pie that oozed one August night, now absorbs abandoned dreams. The table tilts under the weight of telephone, garbage, utility bills, credit card offers, bright catalogs where models march, impossibly slender, midriffs bare, skin smooth as an airbrushed memory of youth. O kitchen, troubled soul of the house, let the aroma of fresh-baked bread overcome the bitter sense, and leave us, this once at peace, hands touching hands as we pass the plates in communion, one more night with those we love.
Please join us in singing our hymn, De Colores, number 305. There are the words on your screen. The last verse we are going to sing in Spanish, so just dig into your high school Spanish classes I know you can do it. All the colors, yes, the colors we see in the springtime with all of its flowers. All the colors, when the sunlight shines out through a rift in the cloud and it showers. All the colors, as a rainbow appears when a storm cloud is touched by the sun. All the colors abound for the whole world around and for everyone under the sun. All the colors, yes, the colors of people parading on by with their banners. All the colors, yes, the colors of pennants and streamers and plumes and bandanas. All the colors, yes, the colors of people now taking their place in the sun. All the colors abound for the whole world around and for everyone under the sun. All the colors, yes, the black and the white and the red and the brown and the yellow. All the colors of people who smile and shake hands and say hello. All the colors, yes, the colors of people who know that their freedom is won. All the colors abound for the whole world around and for everyone under the sun. Now we will sing it in Spanish. De colores y vistan los campos en la primavera. De colores son los pajaritos que vienen de afuera. De colores es el arco iris que vemos lucir. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí.
Every Sunday, we take time for quiet. Quiet can be a luxury in times such as these, when so much is being asked of us in our homes that were previously our sanctuaries from those asks. In this time and space, we take time to listen to our hearts, feel the rhythm of our breath, and feel the glory of our life. Take a deep breath. Relax. Feel the earth beneath your feet and the air surrounding you. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. Starting from your toes and slowly moving upward, feel any areas of tension and bid them release. As you do so, I encourage you to rest your eyes on the painting of the now extinct heath hen. Take a breath. Today, we bless our bodies in all their imperfections, those eyelashes which catch our tears and those wrinkles on our foreheads which crinkle expressively when we are thinking. We breathe into our lungs and we sing out through our throats. In so doing, we hold those who are sick either from this horrible disease or from some other malady. May all of our bodies heal. Breathe in healing. Breathe out a blessing. Today, we bless our bodies when they are with other bodies. Physical touch is as fundamental to our happiness and nourishment as food and water. In so doing, we hold those who yearn for the embrace of a loved one and for whom this embrace is denied. May we all have love that can be held, our skin singing its praises to theirs. Breathe in, Spirit. Breathe out a blessing. Today, we bless our losses, and we recognize that all of these lost chances, lost songs, lost dreams, lost loves, these are the costs of finitude. This finitude which makes these all the more valuable. And yet we have lost too many. And it is too much sorrow to hold or to know. May we remember the heathen, extinct and lost to us forever. Breathe in that sorrow and breathe out that blessing. Today we bless those who loved us into being. Let us think of them in the silence of this space and to know that they are our country and that our country is that loving. It is that loving commitment to caring for you and helping you become who you are. Let us hold them in our mind wherever they are. Breathe in love and breathe out a blessing.
Good morning. My name is Robert Markowitz, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. Each time we gather for our services, we ask for an offering to sustain the work of this congregation. Our mission at USR is to grow in mind and spirit, to act with love for justice, and to transform ourselves and the world. Although right now we can't be together physically, over the past year, our congregation has grown even stronger because of the wonderful job that's been done to keep us connected virtually, like we're experiencing right now. This community exists because of you, and it will survive because of you. Your passion, your time, your talents, and also your donations. Whatever you're able to give, we're grateful for your generosity. And also, our giving now ensures the future of this congregation for years to come. On your screen, you will see the instructions on how to give. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
Our second reading is a video of Fred Rogers, better known as Mr. Rogers from the neighborhood, testifying before the Senate to save a $20 million endowment for the public broadcasting service on which Mr. Rogers' show was based. And throughout this speech, Mr. Rogers unfortunately uses some gendered language that was so common of his time. And I imagine if he was alive today, he'd use more inclusive language. We're going to try to play this video and hopefully we'll get the sound and everything going.
Now, Mr. Rogers is certainly one of the best things that's ever happened to public television, and his Peabody Award is testament to that fact. We in public television are proud of Fred Rogers, and I'm proud to present Mr. Rogers to you now. Fred.
All right, Rogers, you got the floor.
Senator Pastore, this is a philosophical statement and would take about 10 minutes to read, so I'll not do that. One of the first things that a child learns in a healthy family is trust, and I trust what you have said that you will read this. It's very important to me. I care deeply about children. My first children...
Will it make you happy if you read it?
I'd just like to talk about it, if it's all right.
Sir. Okay.
My first children's program was on WQED 15 years ago, and its budget was $30. Now, with the help of the Sears Roebuck Foundation and National Educational Television, as well as all of the affiliated stations, each station pays to show our program. It's a unique kind of funding in educational television. With this help, now our program has a budget of $6,000. It may sound like quite a difference, but $6,000 pays for less than 2 minutes of cartoons, 2 minutes of animated, what I sometimes say, bombardment. I'm very much concerned, as I know you are, about what's being delivered to our children in this country. And I've worked in the field of child development for 6 years now, trying to understand the inner needs of children. We deal with such things as the inner drama of childhood. We don't have to bop somebody over the head to make him, to make drama on the screen. We deal with such things as getting a haircut, or the feelings about brothers and sisters, and the kind of anger that arises in simple family situations. And we speak to it constructively.
How long a program is it?
It's a half hour every day. Most channels schedule it in the noontime as well as in the evening. WETA here has scheduled it in the late afternoon.
Could we get a copy of this so that we can see it? Maybe not today, but I'd like to see the program.
I'd like very much for you
I'd like to see the program itself, or any one of them, you see.
We made 100 programs for EEN, the Eastern Educational Network, and then when the money ran out, people in Boston and Pittsburgh and Chicago all came to the fore and said, we've got to have more of this neighborhood expression of care. And this is what This is what I give. I give an expression of care every day to each child to help him realize that he is unique. I end the program by saying, you've made this day a special day by just your being you. There's no person in the whole world like you, and I like you just the way you are. And I feel that if we in public television can only make it clear that feelings are mentionable and manageable, we will have done a great service for mental health. I think that it's much more dramatic that two men could be working out their feelings of anger, much more dramatic than showing something of gunfire. I'm constantly concerned about what our children are seeing. And for 15 years, I have tried in this country and Canada to present what I feel is a meaningful expression of care.
Do you narrate it?
I'm the host, yes, and I do all the puppets, and I write all the music, and I write all the scripts.
Well, I'm supposed to be a pretty tough guy, and this is the first time I've had goosebumps for the last 2 days.
Well, I'm grateful not only for your goosebumps, but for your interest in our kind of communication. Could I tell you the words of one of the songs which I feel is very important?
Yes.
This has to do with that good feeling of control, which I feel that children need to know is there. And it starts out, what do you do with the mad that you feel? And that first line came straight from a child. I work with children, doing puppets in very personal communication with small groups. What do you do with the mad that you feel? When you feel so mad you could bite. When the whole wide world seems oh so wrong, and nothing you do seems very right. What do you do? Do you punch a bag? Do you pound some clay or some dough? Do you round up friends for a game of tag or see how fast you go? It's great to be able to stop when you've planned a thing that's wrong and be able to do something else instead and think this song. I can stop when I want to, can stop when I wish, can stop, stop, stop anytime. And what a good feeling to feel like this and know that the feeling is really mine. Know that there's something deep inside that helps us become what we can. For a girl can be someday a lady, and a boy can be someday a man.
I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful. Looks like you just earned the $20 million.
Thank you, Ron and Kristen. My grandmother loves America. She was born in Greece and she still speaks English with an accent. She is a swarthy and fiery in temperament, and she just adores John Wayne and John Denver. My grandmother adored America even while she grew up in Greece. And it was this love alone that propelled her, her husband, and her children on a boat across the great Atlantic Ocean. She loves America to a fault. Let me tell you a story that happened a few years ago. My grandmother got a ticket. She was driving in a well-lit Walmart parking lot without her headlights on. And as soon as she drove out of the parking lot, she realized her mistake and she turned her headlights on, but it was too late. A police officer had pulled her over. And the police officer explained to her that driving without one's headlights on is often a sign of drunk driving. My grandmother was horrified. He gave her a ticket for driving without her headlights on, and he sent her on her way. Well, as you can imagine, her son, my father, was incensed. Giving a ticket to an old woman for such a minimal mistake was outrageous, and he decided to accompany her to traffic court. Now, if you have ever been to traffic court, you can imagine the scene. These courts are not the sites of grand dramas like To Kill a Mockingbird, but places to process fines for misdeeds. Generally, it is miserable. They wait several hours as other cases were heard before theirs, and it's the classic, okay, speeding, how do you plead? Guilty, see the clerk and pay the fine. Next, okay, speeding, how do you plead? Guilty, see the clerk and pay the fine. And so when it was my grandmother's turn, she approached the judge and said, "Your Honor, I drove without my headlights on. I'm so stupid. I just forgot them. I'm here to plead guilty and to pay my fine." And the judge looked at her from across its table and said, "We will call it a defective vehicle. No points, no fine, just pay the clerk and the processing fees." My grandmother protested. "No, my car was not defective," she cried in her thick Greek accent. "I am defective." At this, the judge was mildly amused. He said, "Ma'am, this is just a common formality. I see that you made a mistake in good faith, and I don't want you to suffer too dear a consequence." My father, meanwhile, is pulling on her arm and trying to get her to go see the clerk, feeling as though she had got off easy. But she had resisted his pull. And if this were a film and not traffic court, this would be the moment that the lights dimmed and the patriotic drums played in the background. My grandmother told him, "But no, this is a country of laws and justice. I should be held accountable for my actions. I love this country, and this country has treated me well. I do not want to skirt the law, for it is the law and justice that makes America so great. I broke the rules. I should pay." There was laughter in the courtroom. The judge told her that in all his years of being a judge, he had never seen anything quite like this. He declared her not guilty, and much to her chagrin, and my father nearly had to drag her out of the courtroom. When I was considering what to speak to you about today, I considered talking about the big events that our country has faced in recent months, about QAnon and the Capitol riots. But if I was to talk about those, I wouldn't be talking about love. For those events were based in anger, and they evoke anger. And don't get me wrong, those events deserve crucial, critical, and spiritual analysis in understanding the place our nation is in at this time. But this whole month has been about love. Love as a verb, the strong love of being vulnerable and loving the imperfections. And so as I was planning this service, I spoke with Reverend Sarah, who asked me if I loved America. And honestly, I struggled to answer that question. I wanted to give an unequivocal yes, but I wasn't able to. Too often, I think I get down on this country. I think it's in part because the notion of country or nation is just such a vague and distant notion. Is country the political decisions made in Washington? Is country the missiles attached to drones halfway across the world? Is country at the border? I'm made uncomfortable by these thoughts because I know I'm benefiting from these actions at the same time I abhor them. What is this country that I so often criticize and bemoan? Does it deserve my love? And what does that love look like? Real love is the attention we give and how we give it. For me to love country, I have to start small. I have to start at the traffic court, if you will, before I can get to the Supreme Court. Country at this level is just about every friend I have ever made. It is the community of people that I can call and who can call me when it's the dead of winter and I'm just so tired of what it feels like in this eternal night of COVID. Country is that road that I drove on in Maine, right next to the coastline where the clumps of pine trees looked like people huddled for warmth, or the black tar road through the Martian landscape of the Canyonlands. Country is this community. Country is always bigger than we can hold. Like one look at the skyline of Manhattan can make us feel that vastness. When I think of the warm summer days that I would spend on the Astoria ferry with my partner and our friends, enjoying the cool breeze and the big sky touching down on the buildings of Brooklyn and Manhattan, and I reflect that that moment is part of my country, it becomes so much easier to love it. When I start small, I can actively cultivate my love for the enormity of the notion of America. But that love is a verb, and it's not unequivocal acceptance. I profess my love for the big stuff, grounded in the small stuff, and that allows me to acknowledge all the real and shattering flaws of America. Love as unquestioning adoration and loyalty is weak love that cannot acknowledge fault in the beloved. To me, that is the essence of negative patriotism. Negative patriotism is a patriotism that fears the vulnerability of love, a patriotism that yells at you that if you don't like it, you can just leave. Negative patriotism is the fragility that holds that any criticism is a denigration. And so that kind of love can admit nothing about the beloved other than its purity and its greatness. But real love that cares about the future, love that insists on helping something become its best version. That love sees flaws and does not hide from them. And so loving my friends and this community, the landscape and the white-tailed deer that weave between our houses is only part of loving our country. Each of these things and experiences are sustained and supported through the vast network of activity from the wild diversity which makes up our country. And this same network hurts the very people who support it. All of us have felt the injustice of these systems and structures at some point in our life, whether it be through the Kafkaesque bureaucracies that keep us from our basic needs, or being in or witnessing the soul-crushing reality of mass poverty and incarceration. We do not love something by ignoring its flaws. I sometimes imagine that our country is like a friend who is addicted to some substance. So much of what you love about your friend is still there, but they are sick, and that sickness hurts them and those around them. And so loving that friend does not mean ignoring the sickness and fighting anybody who might consider complaining about their behavior. Loving that friend is doing the hard work to love them into being. It is the work of sacrificing your time and comfort, of speaking hard truths and steadfastly helping them on the path toward recovery. Loving that friend is using any and all resources, relying on the community and the expertise of institutions. The issues facing our country are immense. When I try to say the words, I love America, they get caught in my throat. I think of a people who are obsessed with freedom and yet incarcerate more people than any other country in the world by every metric. I think of a people in love with stories of American prosperity when millions of its citizens live in poverty. I think of American history. I think of the way America has treated its women, how it has built itself on the back of slaves, and how it has slaughtered so many indigenous people to steal their land. To say I love America means having to deal with those realities. The enormity of America's sins and the current state of the country are hard to hold alongside the reality that most everything we have known and loved is America. Holding these causes of vertigo, of cognitive dissonance. So I understand the tendency of that fragile love that I've been calling this negative patriotism. It can be too big to take in, and it makes us want to build a shell of denial. But I want to posit that love, properly understood, can hold both sorrow and joy. That love can hold the contradiction, not to make it tolerable, but to make it mentionable and manageable. America is a sick beloved that we need to nurture back to health, even against its wishes. This is the work of social justice that is so vital to our healthy love of our country and ourselves. Recognizing that Martin Luther King Jr.'s famous statement that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere is also a recognition that we are only as great as the least among us. Fred Rogers, in our video reading today, expressed a very simple goal: to teach children that emotions are mentionable and therefore manageable. To let every child know that they are loved just the way they are. What a profound love. What a simple goal. Simple does not mean easy. Imagine the state of the country, though, if every single child knew unequivocally that love was not contingent upon anything more than their being themselves. Imagine what adults that would produce, what community it would make possible. Think about how much damage is done to our country because some emotions are not mentioned and thus are not managed. I believe that Mr. Rogers' expression of love and service was a love of country. I also believe that every time we make someone feel loved and heard, every time we give someone the space and the words to speak their feelings, we have expressed a love for our country. And so Mr. Rogers uses this phrase, the people who have loved us into being. I think that it is our sacred duty to love America into being. Not the America which values greed over life, or exclusion over inclusion, or fear over love, but the America that we studied in our Underground Railroad series. The America which saw that this country had not yet become itself and worked to move it closer to being itself. And we have a long way to go. To love our country into being is not only the big sacrifices. Such thinking, I think, is self-defeating and unnecessary. We are not all Queen Esthers, nor are we even equally in a position to make those types of sacrifices. I think of my grandmother at traffic court. She was sacrificing what in the eyes of the state's budget was a rounding error, and to her was a substantial amount of her limited income. But what she saw herself sacrificing for, a country in which the law applies evenly and fairly to all people, where the law is not skirted by people's own self-interest or position in society, a law that firmly holds every one of us accountable fairly, was more valuable than the money that she would have parted from. Her commitment to her principles in such small affairs was an expression of love for the system of law she believed in, for the notion of a country that drew her halfway around the world, and that to this day she believes in with her whole being. This whole month, we have been thinking about love. We love our country by loving our body, by loving each other's bodies, and by loving through all the inevitable losses that we will encounter. As UUs, we have principles which we try to live up to, and these principles often are hard to keep, and if interpreted in their most strict and most fulfilled form, would likely be too much for any of us to bear. Latent in these principles, though, is an expression of our shared commitment to loving our community and ultimately our country into being fully realized. A country which values its democratic institutions, a country which holds the inherent worth and dignity of all of humankind, a country which has a fidelity to truth and which centers the interdependent web of all being. To hold these principles in our hearts and to act from these principles even when it's hard, this is how we love our country. Thinking and acting from what we love, from our core beliefs, is a powerful act of social justice. So much of the world wants us to act and think from a place of fear and anger, and that is true no matter what side of the partisan aisle you are on. To think and feel from our principles is to resist a politic that says that fear, suppression, and exclusion are more powerful than love. I have faith that acting from principles founded in love is more powerful than fear politics, regardless of the short-term transient benefits that actions based from anger can produce. And so I would like to close with the wonderful words from Fred Rogers. What do you feel? What do you do with the mad that you feel? When you feel so mad you could bite? When the whole wide world seems oh so wrong and nothing you do seems very right? What do you do? Do you punch a bag? Do you pound some clay or some dough? It's great to be able to stop when you've planned a thing that's wrong and be able to do something else instead. And think this song. I can stop when I want to, can stop when I wish, can stop, stop, stop anytime. And what a good feeling to feel like this, and to know that that feeling is really mine. Know that there's something deep inside that helps us become what we can. May it be so, and amen.
Please join us in singing our hymn, From Age to Age, number 105. We have not done this ever, so Ron is going to play it through once. Please join us in the words for extinguishing the chalice.
They can be found on your screen. We extinguish the flame, but may the light of truth, the warmth of love, and the energy of action burn bright in our hearts until we are together again.
I'd like to share with you the benediction from my home congregation. Be ours a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere. Its temple, all space. Its shrine, the good heart. Its creed, all truth. Its ritual, works of love. Its profession of faith, divine living. Thank you all for joining us today, and we shall let you all unmute yourselves now.